In this edition of Fifth Gear, Tom drives the new Aston DB9. And what's fastest, Citroen C2 GT or Ford's SportKa? But first, here's something to think about.
Over the years, crash testing has taken an astonishing variety of forms. Oof, I felt that. This next effort by Volvo is particularly inventive.
But until 7 years ago, most cars were only designed to cope with 30 miles an hour head-on into a concrete block. If the steering wheel didn't move too much, the car passed.
Today, crash testing laws are tougher, as are the cars, and the European crash testing outfit NCAP carries out even more challenging tests at an increased speed of 40 miles an hour, and sophisticated dummies measure the human damage in detail.
The better a car does, the more stars it gets, with the maximum being 5. And, as they say, safety saves lives. But it also sells cars.
So manufacturers have a big incentive to produce stronger, safer motors. Fine, good, great.
Well, it's fine, good, great if you've got a new car, but it might not be if you're in an older car, like these. The NCAP test started 7 years ago, but most of the cars on our roads are older than that. A squashy car from, say, 1995 hitting another squashy car at 30 miles an hour might result in survivable injuries for both drivers.
But what happens if that older car hits one of today's 5-star rock-solid cars? Well, we've decided to find out. One deserted crash test area, one old car, one new car. Join us later to see 2 family wagons crash head-on. The result may surprise you.
New Aston Martins don't come along every day, so when they do, they need to be able to stun like a ray gun, and for more than just a few years. They need to make their owners feel like the stars of the show, not just the extras.
And the first of the really modern Astons did just that. If you've ever seen a Vanquish... Oh, no, wrong voice. If you've ever seen a Vanquish on the road, it makes even the spoddiest bonehead look like a truly sexy hero type.
But a Vanquish costs £160,000. Aston desperately needed a car to replace their aged but big-selling DB7. A car about 100 grand to compete with Ferrari's 360 Modena and Lamborghini's Gallardo. This DB9 is it.
Immediately, every fibre of this car screams Aston Martin at you. If you didn't notice those slimmer hips and fuller waist, you might almost mistake it for its bigger Vanquish brother. For starters, there's the big, bluff, sharky mouth. Then there's the slightly more swept back headlights. And who could forget the trademark side vents and familiar hard shoulder line across the top of the rear arch? It's all pure Vanquish inspired. Even underneath its skin, it's the same type of high-tech bonded and riveted aluminium monocoque as the Vanq.
And what about this interior? Well, old Aston Martins got slated for having old Ford bits in them, and quite rightly so. But the interior of this new DB9 is all bespoke, and I do mean all.
It's dominated by this beautifully crafted centre console, which manages to be both traditional English and high-tech minimalist. And there's a 950-watt Lin stereo, and sat-nav to boot. Straight ahead, there are the dials, stunning metallic jewels, which greet you. Unfortunately, the rear seats are nothing short of a joke. But who cares when you've got detailing like this? This is stuff you really want to show off to your friends.
Even the starter button is made of pure crystal.
Of course, the DB9 is not about figures, it's about emotions. But my emotions are stirred quite significantly by its 6-litre V12 with 450 brake horsepower, and a fatter torque curve than the Vanquish. 5.1 seconds to 62 and 186 miles an hour top end. That's stirring me.
That engine is a wailing, singing monster of a thing. It makes me want to record it and play it back over and over again as I sleep. Oh, just listen to that! Now, later in the year, the DB9 will be available with a normal manual gearbox, so it'll have a gear stick. But this one's got an automatic 6-speed with paddle override, which means that it goes up with the right and down with the left. It suits the car perfectly. It means that you get all the benefits of an automatic, but you get to have a play when you want to. Now, the good thing about this gearbox is that when you don't want to play, you just press D and it becomes a normal, solid 6-speed automatic. And it matches the characteristic of the DB9 that's also utterly impressed me, and that's the ride. It's got no fancy schmancy electronic nonsense in this car, just properly set up wishbones and springs done by people who obviously know what they're doing. It actually betters some of the luxury saloons that I've been driving recently, and it's the best GT I think I've ever driven.
Yes, OK, there is a feeling of weight against the nose if you get a bit too keen. But the levels of grip and go and steering feel and braking power are phenomenal for this kind of car. It's the opera singer that can dance, the footballer that can play chess. It's the F1 driver who can hold a conversation. At 103,000, why bother with a Vanquish when this costs 60 grand less? I reckon it'll steal sales from other GTs like the Bentley Continental, as well as the Gallardo and 360.
Quite frankly, this DB9 is an absolutely stunning car. I actually reckon that it's the best car that Aston Martin have ever built. It's that good. And for me, being a little bit of a junior James Bond, it makes me very happy indeed.
Now for the bit of the show where we find out what's quickest, the 5th gear shootout. In our last series of shootouts, we saw BMW Z4 squeeze past Porsche's Boxster. Nissan's 350Z trounced Audi's most powerful TT. And proved that round our Anglesey circuit in Wales, the 3 Series CSL is a massive 2 seconds quicker than the standard M3. This week, we're looking at 2 10-grand sport hatches, pitching Citroen's new C2 GT, the fastest C2 yet with 110 horsepower and a manual gearbox, head-to-head with the only thing that comes close to it for the money, Ford's SportKa, the latest and fastest version of one of my favourite handling super minis. First up is the Ford, a car that's always cried out for a bit more power. Well, now with this SportKa, it's finally got an extra 25 bhp. They've flared out its arches and given it lower tweaked suspension so it handles even better. It's got soft-ish brakes, which sometimes feel like they could be a bit sharper and yet do the job really well. It's got great steering feel and a lovely gearbox. With minimal body roll and surprisingly little understeer, the SportKa is ready to set the pace. Keep it neat and tidy. The first split at radar stops the clock at 25.1 seconds. The next split at the hairpin is reached in 38.7. With a final lap time of 57 seconds. So, how will the new C2 GT compare with Ford's superb little SportKa? For all the fuss that Citroen have been making about this being a rally homologation special and sticking a GT badge on the back, I have to say I'm a bit disappointed having stepped into the interior. The so-called sport seats are more like soft armchairs, and there's nothing that sporty about the feel of this chassis either. It's very soft with more roll than the Ford, and the gear change is definitely a lot looser. But one thing that isn't looser are the brakes. Whilst the Fords might have been a bit soft, the Citroens are sharp, to say the least. In fact, it's very difficult to modulate to get that right bit of feel. And worst of all, if you brake too hard, the brake assist comes in and not only suddenly lurches the car to a much slower speed, but at the same time sticks the hazard lights on. But it does have an extra 15 horsepower, so will that be enough to overcome the nimble Ford? Only the time will tell. By radar, it's edged 0.3 of a second in front. And by the hairpin, it's stretched that to half a second. But there's still the high-speed left-right-left of Douglas Mountview to come. Steady. And while it doesn't gain any more time, it hangs on to pip the SportKa and bathe in a moment of glory. Head-to-head, the Citroen C2 GT is the fastest.
I've come to Italy for the launch of the new Audi A6. Here it is, sitting by Lake Como. The old car never quite matched its executive rivals, the Mercedes E-Class and BMW 5 Series. To join the club, this new one needs to be bigger, more distinctive to look at, more agreeable to be in, and better to drive. So is it? Let's start with the first question.
Is it bigger? Well, yes, it is. Thanks very much for asking. Audi have made it 120 millimetres longer, which is about that much. So that means the people in the front get that much more room, and the people in the back get about that much more room. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's enough to make the A6 at last a truly spacious car, which is an essential quality for an executive motor. But the really interesting fact, and I can't believe I'm saying this, is the boot. It's 546 litres, which makes it bigger than the one on the BMW 5 Series and bigger than the one on the Mercedes E-Class. But, best of all, it's bigger than the one on the Audi A8. Now that is big.
The front end of the new A6 is more assertive and in your face. The new Audi corporate grille is huge and the bonnet flows purposely forward, curving down around it. New creases along the flanks give the car a more sporting poise. It's not as avant-garde as a 5 Series or as posh as a Merc, but it's much more distinctive than it used to be.
In my mind, Audi have really come out of the shadows. This car says sporty. It comes across as affluent. It looks like an aspirational purchase. It ticks all of the boxes. But best of all, it looks aggressive. The age of the bland Audi saloon looks very much to be over. Audi are very used to having people battering it into them that BMW makes sporty cars, they don't. So they're trying every trick in the book to prove otherwise. Now look at this cockpit. It's all angled and focused towards the driver. It says to everyone else in the car, this is the driver's gig, not yours. As with all Audis, it's beautifully finished and put together, but it's the little touches that make something like this. And it's the steering wheel that does it for me. It's a kind of steering wheel you grip and you think, this might have some fire in its belly.
Which brings us to the last question.
It feels so beefed up. The steering has weight, it has real purpose, and go round a bend and it feels tight. It really grips the road. There's no roll like the old A6. But the best bit is they've improved the ride. Not only have they improved it, but I think it's better than the ride on the E-Class and on the 5 Series.
Let's not get carried away here though. The BM is still more involving with sharper steering, but the Audi is now a serious contender, and it has the reassuring option of four-wheel drive. Engines will range from a 2.4-litre V6 to a 4.2-litre V8, with plenty of diesels when the car goes on sale in June, priced from £24,000.
Sadly, the launch is over and I'm back to the rather charming Stansted Airport. So the question remains, would I buy the Audi A6 over its rivals, the BMW 5 Series and the Mercedes E-Class? Yes, I would.
We've decided to find out what happens when an old car meets a new car. We want to find out what a top 5-star safety rating means for the people in here.
And the people in here. It's a simple test. It's a fascinating test, but it's never been done for television before.
We've chosen Renault Espaces because the new one is the real school swat. Of all today's 5-star cars, NCAP rate the Espace as the safest. In fact, they say it's the safest car they've ever tested.
This typical 9-year-old Espace was a good performer in its day, and it's just the sort of thing you see full of families all the time. But exactly how much has the new car moved things on? Renaults say it'll absorb 2.5 times the energy of the old car, whilst the body shell has been stiffened to help withstand high-speed crashes.
But if you're not careful, that extra rigidity can transmit increased forces to the next weakest link in the chain. The passengers. So it's vitally important to bring them to as graceful and as cushioned a halt as possible.
Whilst the old car only had 1 airbag, the new one has 8, with the front 2 deploying at varying pressures depending upon the severity of the impact and the weight of the passengers.
There are airbags running along both sides to protect the head, and in the first 2 rows there are airbags at chest level. Drive off without a seatbelt on.
And an annoying bong drives you mad, which scores big points with NCAP.
The cabin boasts even more clever features, like the seatbelt pre-tensioners. 5 milliseconds after a crash, they take up the slack to prevent this happening. Then there's the reinforced rear seats to keep luggage at bay, close contact head restraints all round, and proper 3-point seatbelts in the bag. No nasty lap belts to chop you in half here. On paper, it's a state-of-the-art safety system, but how well will this goody two-shoes do in our real-world crash?
To find out, we've come to the Motor Industry Research Association's Havoc area, a secret test site in the middle of nowhere used by the military and government. It has £200,000 worth of electric drum winch, a beast that boasts the power of 200 car engines. When we press fire, a network of cables will pull the 2 cars into one another at 35 miles an hour, guided by a high-tension wire. We're lining them up for the collision the NCAP test is designed to replicate, driver's side to driver's side, just like a real-life head-on smash.
In the cabin are a right pair of dummies. Meet Tiffy and Vic, our stunt stand-ins. Worth £100,000 each, they're wired up to record the G-forces on every part of their bodies. Time to make your predictions and place your bets.
Do you still think they don't make them like they used to, and the new car will tear like tissue?
Or do you think the new car will demolish the old one?
Perhaps you're sceptical and think that the 5 stars are just a marketing ploy and both cars will perform similarly.
Well, don't blink and you won't miss it. To help make sense of the wreckage, we've recruited Crash Engineering Research Chief Richard Morris.
Now, Richard, I first have to say, this is your job, but to me, I'm always shocked by the amount of damage that's done. And this is just 2 cars at 35 miles an hour going head-to-head. I mean, this guy is just jammed in. There's no way we can get the door open or anything.
No, I don't think on this particular test that there'll be any reasons to get the driver out, because I think he would be dead. We've had a catastrophic failure of the occupant cabin. It's just total overload there, and again, the sill, another major structural part, and that's all just completely disintegrated. The area where his feet were is now roughly where the wheel is, so no, I don't think that would be survivable.
But the torso seems to have gone out of the seatbelt even. The seatbelt hasn't held him.
That's right, I think the seat has actually gone inboard, and that's why he's partly come out of the seatbelt.
And because the driver was lurching around, he wasn't in the airbag's line of fire, which meant it was rendered useless. So, a car that's only 9 years old and yet a lot of damage.
Indeed, yes, not
Whereas
good at all.
the newer model looks at first glances to have fared better. Let's see if we can open the door on this one. No, that's still not going to budge, but looking inside, the driver's feet are still on the pedals, there's no intrusion of the steering wheel, but the airbag hasn't gone off. Sure, that's wrong.
Well, it depends on how the car has determined the severity of the impact. If we look at the front of the car, if I move these parts off here, you can see that the main structure here is still fairly intact. We've had a little bit of deformation up here.
And that's a designed crumple zone.
It is, yes. You can see the features to allow it to crush there. So we believe that the car has decided that this was not a severe enough impact to fire the airbags.
This high-speed footage shows how the red car comes to a much more abrupt stop, with the black car's wheels rolling for longer, indicating a gentler deceleration. All the new Espace felt it had to do to protect its occupants was fire the seatbelt pre-tensioners, evidenced by the cracked plastic at the anchor point and mild chafing on the belt itself. Presumably this damage wouldn't have been as bad if this car had hit a car of similar age.
Yes, I believe that's true. This car has seen a lot of damage because it's hit a very, very stiff modern NCAP car. If it had hit a similar car to itself, there'd have been less damage, less injuries, and perhaps the driver would have survived.
So, I mean, it really is a classic double-edged sword.
Yes, I believe it is. And until we see more cars which are highly Euro NCAP star rated, then we'll see this problem as they hit the older cars.
Everybody in the new Espace would have walked away, as might, this time, the passengers in the old Espace. But the data shows their driver would have taken the brunt of the force, up to 84 G at the chest. That could mean massive internal hemorrhaging. The driver's legs would probably have been seriously fractured, with the thigh bones being pushed back through the buttocks. Blood loss would have been enormous, and with access to the lower legs being so restricted, the emergency services would have taken 30 to 40 minutes to extract him. Survival was highly unlikely, and remember, all this at just 35 miles an hour.
If that's got you concerned that you can't afford a safe car, then don't worry. A highly rated car in the right size for you may be cheaper than you think. 5-star cars start at around £5,500 for a second-hand Renault Laguna, and there's a whole host of cheaper 4-star cars that will stand a crash much better than that oh-so-tempting old banger you've got your eye on. The Euro NCAP website has all the ratings, and if you need any more motivation to go there, just remember this.